Hollywood had two kings of cool tea, Clint Eastwood, with his steely stare, and Dean Martin with his effortless charm. When they clashed over who was truly the coolest man in America, the battle that followed became legendary and changed both their careers forever. It started with a magazine cover that would ignite the most talked-about rivalry in Hollywood history. In March 1969, Life magazine published their annual Coolest Men in America issue, and for the first time in 5 years, Dean Martin wasn't number one. The title had gone to Clint Eastwood, the mysterious gunslinger from the Dollars trilogy, who had captured America's imagination with his squinting stare and poncho-clad silence. Clint Eastwood has redefined what it means to be cool, the magazine declared. While other stars try too hard, Eastwood achieves maximum impact with minimum effort. He's the new king of American cool. The article went on to describe Eastwood's calculated minimalism and methodical approach to masculine mystique, suggesting that his brand of cool was more sophisticated and modern than the old-school charm that had made Dean Martin famous. Dean Martin read the article while having breakfast at his Beverly Hills home, and for the first time in his career, he felt genuinely challenged by another performer's success. It wasn't about the magazine ranking. Dean had never cared much about awards or recognition. It was about the implication that his style of cool was outdated, that Hollywood had moved beyond what he represented. Calculated minimalism? Dean said to his wife Jenny, reading from the article. What the hell does that even mean? But the magazine article was just the beginning. Within weeks, the entertainment industry had begun to choose sides in what the press was calling the Cool Wars. Studio executives, directors, and other performers were being asked to weigh in on which man truly deserved the title of Hollywood's coolest. The divide was immediate and sharp. The younger generation of filmmakers, influenced by European cinema and the emerging counterculture movement, gravitated toward Eastwood's brooding intensity. The established Hollywood elite, who had grown up with the Rat Pack and traditional entertainment values, remained loyal to Dean's effortless sophistication. Clint represents the future of American masculinity, declared director Sergio Leone, who had created Eastwood's iconic Man with No Name character. He doesn't need to be charming or funny. He just needs to be dangerous. But Frank Sinatra had a different perspective. Dean Martin has more cool in his little finger than most men have in their entire bodies. Frank told reporters, Clint's got a great squint, but Dean's got soul. The rivalry reached a turning point when both men were invited to the same industry party at the Beverly Hills Hotel in June 1969. It was the first time they would be in the same room since the magazine article had declared Eastwood the new king of cool, and everyone in Hollywood was watching to see how the two men would interact. Dean arrived at the party fashionably late, as was his custom. Wearing a perfectly tailored tuxedo and his characteristic relaxed smile, he moved through the crowd with the easy confidence that had made him famous, stopping to chat with friends and making everyone around him feel like they were part of an exclusive club. Eastwood arrived exactly on time, wearing a simple black suit that seemed designed to make him blend into the background. He positioned himself near the bar and observed the room with the same intense stare that had made him famous in westerns. Where Dean drew people to him, Eastwood seemed to dare them to approach. The contrast was immediately apparent to everyone at the party. Dean's presence filled the room with warmth and energy, while Eastwood's created an atmosphere of mysterious tension. Both men commanded attention, but in completely different ways. It was like watching two different species of predator, observed director Robert Altman, who was at the party. Dean was like a charming lion who made you want to get closer, even though he could destroy you. Clint was like a cobra, Myra, perfectly still, perfectly dangerous, and you couldn't take your eyes off him. The moment everyone had been waiting for came when Dean approached Eastwood at the bar. The entire party seemed to quiet down as Hollywood's two coolest men prepared to meet face to face. You must be Clint, Dean said, extending his hand with his characteristic warmth. Congratulations on the magazine cover, well deserved. Eastwood shook Dean's hand with a grip that seemed calculated to convey strength without appearing aggressive. Mr. Martin, I've been a fan of your work for years. Please, call me Dean. We're in the same business. Are we? Eastwood asked. And there was something in his tone that suggested he wasn't sure they were in the same business at all. Dean laughed easily. Well, we're both trying to look good in front of cameras and convince people to pay money to watch us. That seems like the same business to me. I suppose, Eastwood replied. Though I think we have different approaches. Different approaches to what? To being cool. The conversation that followed would be remembered and repeated throughout Hollywood for decades. It wasn't an argument or a confrontation. Both men were too professional for that. But it was a fascinating exploration of two completely different philosophies of masculine appeal. Cool isn't something you do, Dean said, genuinely curious about Eastwood's perspective. It's something you are. You can't practice being cool any more than you can practice being tall. Eastwood considered this. I disagree. I think cool is about control. It's about knowing exactly what effect you want to have and achieving it precisely. But if you're thinking about the effect you're having, aren't you trying too hard? I'm being professional, Eastwood replied. Every gesture, every expression, every word is calculated to create the maximum impact. Dean smiled. That sounds exhausting. It's effective. But is it honest? The question hung in the air between them, and for a moment, Eastwood's carefully controlled expression flickered with something that might have been uncertainty. Honest? Eastwood repeated. Yeah. Are you being yourself? Or are you being what you think people want you to be? Eastwood's response revealed the fundamental difference between their approaches to stardom. I'm being what the role requires. That's what actors do. But we're not acting right now, Dean pointed out. We're just talking at a party. Are you still playing a role? The question seemed to genuinely puzzle Eastwood. He had spent so much time crafting his public persona that he wasn't sure where the character ended and the man began. Dean, meanwhile, was exactly the same person in private that he was in public. Charming, relaxed, and genuinely interested in other people. His coolness wasn't a performance, it was simply how he moved through the world. Their conversation was interrupted when a young actress approached to ask for autographs. The way each man handled the request perfectly illustrated their different approaches to cool. Eastwood signed the autograph with minimal conversation, maintaining his mysterious distance. He was polite but remote, giving the actress exactly what she expected from the man with no name. Dean, however, made the actress feel like the most important person at the party. He asked about her career, complimented her dress, and made her laugh with a gentle joke about the magazine article. By the time she walked away, she was glowing with happiness. Now that, said director Billy Wilder, who had witnessed the interaction, is the difference between manufactured cool and the real thing. But the rivalry was far from over. In the months that followed, both men seemed to be competing for opportunities that would demonstrate their particular brand of cool. When Eastwood was offered the lead in a gritty crime thriller, Dean was offered the lead in a sophisticated heist film. When Dean was featured on the cover of Esquire, Eastwood appeared on the cover of GQ. The competition reached its peak when both men were offered roles in the same film, a big-budget western called The Last Stand, that would have paired them as unlikely partners. The script called for Eastwood to play a mysterious gunfighter and Dean to play a charming con man who would team up to take on a corrupt sheriff. The film would have been the perfect opportunity to settle the coolest man debate once and for all. But during the initial meeting with director Sam Peckinpah, it became clear that both men had very different ideas about how their characters should be portrayed. Clint's character should be the strong, silent type, Peckinpah explained. He doesn't say much, but when he does speak, it carries weight. Dean's character is the opposite. He talks his way out of trouble and charms everyone he meets. Eastwood nodded approvingly. This was exactly the kind of role he had perfected. But Dean had reservations. Sam, I don't want to play someone who's just talking all the time while Clint gets to be the strong one. That makes me look like the sidekick. You're not the sidekick, Peckinpah assured him. You're equals, you just have different skills. Different skills? Dean asked. Or is one of us the cool one, and one of us is the clown? The question revealed Dean's concern that the film would position Eastwood as the real cool character while Dean provided comic relief. After years of being considered the ultimate cool performer, Dean wasn't interested in being reduced to the funny friend. Eastwood, meanwhile, was concerned that Dean's natural charisma would overshadow his more subtle approach. Dean's got a lot of natural charm, Eastwood told Peckinpah privately. I'm worried that next to him, my character will seem wooden. The film fell apart when both actors demanded script changes that would have fundamentally altered their characters. Dean wanted his character to be more mysterious and dangerous, while Eastwood wanted his character to be more charming and talkative. Each man wanted to incorporate elements of the other's cool style into his own performance. They each wanted to be the other guy, Peckinpah observed. Dean wanted to be mysterious, and Clint wanted to be charming. They didn't understand that their own approaches were already perfect. The failure of The Last Stand marked the end of the public rivalry between Dean Martin and Clint Eastwood, but not because either man had defeated the other. Instead, both men began to realize that their different approaches to cool were equally valid and appealing to different audiences. The resolution came in an unexpected way. During a chance encounter at the Polo Lounge in 1971, Dean was having lunch with Sammy Davis Jr. when Eastwood walked in alone and took a seat at the bar. "Go invite Clint over," Sammy suggested. "You two have been dancing around each other for 3 years. Maybe it's time to just talk." Dean walked over to Eastwood and made an offer that surprised everyone in the restaurant. "Clint, would you like to join us for lunch? No cameras, no reporters, just 3 guys talking." Eastwood looked up from his drink, and for the first time since Dean had known him, smiled genuinely. "I'd like that." The conversation that followed was nothing like their first meeting at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Away from the pressure of public competition, both men were able to be more honest about their approaches to their careers and their images. "You know," Dean said, "I've been thinking about what you said about control. There's something to that. Maybe I've been too casual about my image. And I've been thinking about what you said about honesty," Eastwood replied. "Maybe I've been so focused on creating an effect that I've forgotten to be myself." Sammy Davis Jr., who had been listening to the conversation with fascination, made an observation that would help both men understand their rivalry in a new way. "You know what's funny?" Sammy said. "You two have been competing over who's cooler, but you're not even competing for the same thing. Dean, your cool is about making other people feel comfortable and happy. Clint, your cool is about making other people feel intrigued and maybe a little intimidated. Those aren't opposites. They're just different tools for different jobs." The insight was profound, and both men recognized its truth immediately. "Sammy's right," Dean said. "We've been acting like there's only one way to be cool, but there isn't. You're cool for people who want mystery and danger. I'm cool for people who want charm and sophistication. And both styles work," Eastwood added, "because different people want different things from their entertainment." The rivalry officially ended that day, replaced by a mutual respect that would last for the rest of their careers. Both men realized that their competition had been based on a false premise, that there was only room for one king of cool in Hollywood. The truth is, Dean reflected years later, America is big enough for more than one kind of cool. Clint and I weren't really competing with each other. We were just representing different aspects of what American men could be. Eastwood, in his later interviews, was equally philosophical about their rivalry. "Dean taught me that you don't have to be mysterious to be compelling, and I hope I showed him that you don't have to be charming to be effective. We were both right about cool, we were just talking about different kinds." The battle between Clint Eastwood and Dean Martin for the title of Hollywood's coolest man ended without a clear winner, but with something more valuable: all recognition that cool isn't a competition, it's a spectrum. Both men had found their place on that spectrum, and had given American audiences 2 different models of masculine appeal. In the end, observed film critic Pauline Kael, the rivalry between Dean and Clint wasn't about who was cooler, it was about expanding our definition of what cool could be. They both won because they both taught us something different about confidence, style, and authenticity. The legacy of their rivalry lives on in how we think about screen presence and masculine appeal. Dean Martin's effortless charm and Clint Eastwood's calculated intensity represent 2 poles of cool that continue to influence performers today. "Some actors try to be Dean Martin, and some try to be Clint Eastwood," observed acting coach Lee Strasberg. "The smart ones learn that they need to be themselves, just like Dean and Clint eventually learned to be." The battle for Hollywood's coolest man ended with both men keeping their crowns, proving that in the kingdom of cool, there's room for more than one king. If this story of rivalry turned to respect moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who understands that there's more than one way to be cool in this world. Which type of cool do you prefer? Dean's natural charm or Clint's calculated intensity? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to check out our other videos about the rivalries that shaped Hollywood history.